Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
You are listening to Scream with Ryan C. Showers, the podcast for Scream fans just like you. Join Ryan every week as he takes a deep dive into the horror film series that defined the 90s and redefined the genre. Scream with Ryan C. Showers is your source for scene and quote analysis, character dissections, and the latest news about upcoming installments of the Scary Movie franchise.
I hear you like horror movies, Kirby, but do you like them as much as him?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scream with Ryan C. Showers podcast, where the film critic meets the Scream fan twice a week, every Tuesday and Friday. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. In this episode, we are celebrating Neve Campbell's birthday by saying what we would like to see happen with Sidney in Scream 7. So the Patreon of Ryan C. Showers joined me for this discussion. It's very cool, a lot of variety in answers, so please stay tuned. And allow me to wish Neve Campbell the happiest of birthdays. Thank you so much for giving us 5 and soon to be 6 movies with Sidney Prescott over the years and your wonderful talents. We love you so much, Neve. Next, it is my great honor to tell everybody, announce to the world that the Scream 7 promotion is officially underway. So on October 1st, the first day of the Halloween month, we got the official logo for Scream 7. It was posted by the Scream account and all of the Paramount accounts across social media. So it's very exciting. You can feel the palpable anticipation and urgency in the air. And there's one thing you can't say about Scream. You can't say that it's not the talk of the town because everybody is talking about it. So that's great. But before we get going with the main episode here, I have a very sad announcement to make about my friend Steven from Craven Something Scary. So Craven Something Scary is a YouTube channel about Scream, and Steven is the guy who ran it. He's been on this podcast. He was on an episode last year about Stu Macher, and Stu was really his claim to fame. He was a huge proponent of Stu being alive and fulfilling that original story of Stu Macher from Scream 3, the first draft, or Kevin's treatment for Scream 3. It's with great sadness that I announced that Steven has passed. And this was announced on Monday earlier this week. And a lot of us knew him. A lot of us were friends with him. A lot of us enjoyed his content and him as a person. I just want to speak to my experience with him. He and I weren't necessarily close at first. We didn't do much in way of collaborating. And after the stuff with Melissa Barrera went down, he really defended me. And that really showed me like his true colors. And after that, like he had me on his YouTube show many times. And he was on my show. He was a really nice person. You know, I always tried sharing his content on social media as much as I could. He was a Patreon here for Scream with Ryan C. Showers. So it's a real heavy heart to lose somebody whom you were friends with and whom you made art with and whom you watched and who you thought was, you know, a wonderful, optimistic person out in the world. So I dedicate this episode to Steven and to his legacy. I will miss him, even was a wonderful person, and we truly mourn his loss. Before I go any further, I need to thank the producers and administrators of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. First, I need to thank TJ Jones, who does all of the graphic design work from the podcast. Also, I need to thank Ashley Summers, Mark Vieira, Sarah Campbell, and Sam Levy for helping me keep the podcast and Patreon community afloat. Thank you to everybody who subscribes to the Patreon at any and every tier. I'm an independent entity, so any bit of support that comes into the Patreon goes back into the podcast. Joining the Patreon gets you ad-free and early access to every episode, as well as the opportunity to join the community of the show. We have group chats across social media. In particular, Instagram is really the hub of the podcast community. More importantly, joining the Patreon is the vessel in which you would use to come onto the podcast, either in a one-on-one situation with me or a small panel. In addition, there's a guaranteed invite every month to a big group Zoom recording about a Scream topic. An exciting feature of the podcast is the audio commentary episodes. Every Scream fan knows what it was like listening to Wes Craven do the audio commentaries for the original trilogy and Scream 4, you know, with Marianne Madalena and Kevin Williamson and Patrick Lussier. And what I'm trying to do for my Patreon subscribers is I am going to be performing an audio commentary of a Scream or a Scream-related movie, one per month, every month. And my goal is to try to approach these as I'm doing deep analytical analysis about the characters characters, about the themes, about just general reaction. So it's something that I'm really proud of, and I hope continues to be a cherished part of the podcast. So the commentary is available as a normal podcast episode for anybody to listen to like they would any other podcast, but it will also be available as a video watch along. So everybody, please go over to Patreon, subscribe to Scream with RCS. I would be eternally grateful. So I need to go through and thank everybody over at Patreon who is subscribed as a stab investor or a daddy/mama Ghostface. So the daddy/mama Ghostface of the Patreon are Carrie Tenney, Brett Janovich, Corey Wilson, and Stevie Shears. The stab investors include Allie, Mark Harim, Tamika Jones, David D., Garrison Nichols, Gustavo Mora, Jess Mariano, Joey Nobarini, aka The Vault, Josh Calamari, Josh Carr, Scream Queens podcast, both Josh and Justine, The Horror Project podcast, Kevin Abner, Mark Vieira, PWO5, aka Philip Douglas, Quentin Harrison, and Sam Levy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this segment of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Everybody, please welcome my friend and my guest for this segment, Caleb. Hey, Caleb.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm well. So, oh my gosh, it's so nice to meet you after so long of knowing you on social media.
It's good to be here. And, I can't thank you enough for doing the podcast, because who knew there could be 200 plus episodes in a Scream podcast? Like, an amazing achievement that, I remember when you started the podcast, I was kind of thinking, you get 50 episodes out of Scream. And I know there's been slight tangents. You've gone off with different Scream-related projects or people that have been part of the Scream universe, whether it's Buffy or The Craft and all these other movies and stuff.
Am I hearing this correctly? You thought I would fizzle out.
No, not fizzle out. Personally, I wish I could have done that. I just thought, when you think about long-term a podcast related to one specific movie franchise, you sort of think, well, how much legs does that have? Whether it's, Scream or it's Halloween or, you could argue Star Wars because there's constantly new content coming out from Disney, but there is an infinite, there's a finite amount of stuff you can churn out pretty much. But you found a way and done some really cool stuff. Obviously, scripts with Joey, all that extra stuff. It's great.
Thank you. And, I really do take the compliment seriously. The reason and the way I've kind of done the podcast is these movies have lived in my mind, since I was a little kid. And I've thought about it in such rabbit hole ways, and I've thought about it in numbers and different scenarios, and it's just, this stuff has always lived in here in my brain. So it's just to be able to put this out into the world. And what I found is when you put all of that out into the world, everybody else who loves Scream, like you, like my producer Ashley, like my graphic designer TJ, when you put it out into the world, it kind of has a cascading effect where my thoughts hits their thoughts, and then it turns into something completely different and wild. And that's how you have so many episodes, and you have different people with different ideas about Scream. In my Patreon, I put out a survey for people, what do you want to come on and talk about for the Patreons to come on the show. And the number of topics were things I never even considered. And I think Scream is really cool, and I'm happy and really proud of what the podcast has been able to do, because I get that a lot. I get people who say, how can you have a weekly podcast about 6 movies, right?
I think it's also commendable and amazing that you've even, pushed on through all the stuff that you've put up with in the last 12 months with all the toxic fans that have really come after you. And again, I have no understanding why people get that passionate, but also so dangerously violent. It's ridiculous. I know it's great to have passion for these films. And again, we're talking about just Scream, but I know being part of sort of the fan bases of other franchises, people get so worked up, and you can get upset with a particular movie or be disappointed on how the movie, maybe has come across. You might not like every plot point or how a character's treated or whatever, but getting so worked up and then taking it out on other fans is the most ridiculous waste of energy. Yeah, the fact that you're still doing this, I think that's another big tick. Your resilience to just keep doing this podcast in spite of, I guess, all the hate, which is not at all justified. But no, it's great that you're still doing it, Ryan.
Oh my gosh, that just warmed my heart so much. Thank you. And please tell me about you. My gosh, because you have your own podcast too.
Yeah, which was inspired by Scream. So it was, me and Angus, it actually got started from the conversation in Scream 2 where they're in class and they're talking about sequels. Well, Randy says sequels suck, and then they had that whole back and forth about sequels that were pretty good. So that's how that sort of started from that. And because I wanted to talk about Scream, but I did want to touch on sequels that I think are a bit more maligned in the community, or people have slowly come around to. So that's how that started. Jaws 2 was a passion project for Angus, who is now my co-host. Yeah, we decided to, focus in on sequels. Obviously, we do have things when we can. We come back to Scream a bit. So we've done we've rated the killer, the music, other parts of the Scream franchise. But yeah, that's my passion when it comes to Scream. But Scream goes back a long way for me.
I love the name of your podcast. I love the look of your logo, right? Because it kind of mirrors the Scream 2 poster. So having like the phrase sequels suck over that image, I think, is so cool. So I think it's very awesome.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say, I have to give credit to someone you might know, Lee Capasso.
Love him.
Yeah.
Lovely.
He was playing around with stuff, and obviously he does the Scream calendars, and he's done Scream shirts and stuff like that, and played around with some designs. He's done a lot of Buffy stuff as well. And I was just like, oh, what are your thoughts on this logo?
Lee is awesome. He does the calendars, and like the 2024 calendar was my favorite. So he did actually the original trilogy, and he actually sent me a second one because I wanted to like use the imagery and put the imagery in frames. And like, so in my office, like I have like maybe a 2-foot space between like the window and the ceiling, and I have like 6 or 7 of the calendar images like framed above like my windows. Lovely so much. So cool. I like that. I didn't know that he did that. So cool. And where can they find you and your podcast?
Yeah, so it's Sequel Suck Podcast. We've got a Sequel Suck Podcast Instagram, and then you can find me on at Cosplay Cable is probably the easiest one, where I do a little bit of Ghostface. I've done some stuff there, but mainly Ghostbusters is my go-to, and I've done a little bit of Michael Myers from.
Are you a Halloween fan in general?
Yeah. I would say Scream's my favorite franchise, but definitely not far behind as well.
Let's go through your Scream story. So what does Scream mean to you?
I don't want to say it was a gateway drug, but I mean, I grew up in a family where, my dad wasn't into horror films. He just liked the action movies with Schwarzenegger or Stallone and all these sort of characters. And so I didn't have access to horror stuff. And it wasn't till I was aware of it. I was aware of you go down the horror section of the video store, the local Blockbuster, and you'd see these images, and there was some creepy cover designs for some of these VHSs out there. But I remember the first horror movie I probably saw, and I saw it young because my dad's name was Fred. It was A Nightmare on Elm Street, and I really loved that. But again, didn't really have an opportunity to see a lot. Again, my mum was almost had us in cop wall. She was very anti-violent stuff, especially when it came to horror films. It was definitely something we were allowed to watch. So I would have had to have been at a friend's place and not tell mum kind of thing. And then, Scream rolled around, and I was sort of getting to the point where I was starting to watch those horror films. And then Scream just blew my mind, and just the whole meta commentary, and just the Randy being able to talk about all these horror films and all these horror films I'd heard about but just hadn't seen. And then it was like, rushing to sort of almost catch up. But Scream just opened that whole universe, and just being able to go back and watch all these films. It's just, I guess, changed my life in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I think that honestly, Scream changed a lot of people's lives. I love that. So what would you say your ranking is of the 6 movies we have so far?
And that sort of changes. And that was what I wanted to speak to really is that I think before I give you my answer, I definitely think now I have a reevaluation in a positive way for Scream 3, which is your pride and joy. But for a long time, I've never hated Scream 3. When you look at the original trilogy, I just love the first 2 so much. The third one was always possibly going to find it hard to sort of be considered my favorite in that bunch. And so it's always been my lowest ranked. And then Scream 4 came along, and I really liked Scream 4. So that sort of jumped up. So Scream 3 was sitting at the bottom again. And then Scream 5 came along, and I was kind of like, it's kind of cool. It was good to go back, and okay, they're starting the franchise again. And I probably had that above 3. And then 6 came along. And again, I have already a weird history with Scream 6 in that when I watched it the first time, I actually enjoyed the film as a roller coaster ride. When I watched it again and really thought about it and almost picked apart the plot holes and just the issues with the film, and the fact that too many people survive and the only people that really die are just non-entities in the film and they're just innocent bystanders type stuff. There is the stakes, and it was kind of like similar to a lot of the times you've said in the podcast, like how they treated the Gale character. I love Gale. Gale's my favorite characters. I was like, oh, cool, they gave her a chase scene. She got a call, but what did they do with her character? And it was kind of like, this whole radio silence era has changed my perception of even the original. It's probably elevated, and then all of a sudden 3 has slid up. So, sorry, I'll give you a long-winded answer without actually giving you a ranking, but I'll give you the ranking. My favorite is number 2, and it's 1. Then it's 3's probably gone back right up, and then it's 4, 5, and 6. I just don't connect with the new stuff. It's not, I don't hate them either. It's just they just don't have that same level of, I guess, Wes Craven.
So I have to say, the propaganda worked. I'm just teasing. No, I'm happy. Like, I love hearing this because, like, this is, first of all, I kind of predicted this would happen about Scream 3. And also just like, I think as people sat with the radio silence era, and especially like, you use the phrase pick apart in terms of Scream 6. And I don't think that like you have to do much to pick apart Scream 6. Scream 6 is almost like a croissant. And like once you touch a croissant, it just kind of, the crumbs just, flake off. And that's kind of Scream 6. It's cute and pretty to look at when you're just from afar, but then when you actually hold it, it just falls apart and it makes a mess. And that is Scream 6. In retrospect, when you have these other movies made by other people besides Wes Craven, I'm hoping Kevin Williamson can be up to the par of Wes Craven within the bounds for a 7. I think that you see the greatness of what you actually had for the people who did nitpick Scream 3. Because like, I think Scream 3 was nitpicked to death, whereas I think Scream 6, the flaws are so self-evident and so obvious. It's such an objectively like poorly constructed movie, even though it's fun, even though that it's enjoyable, even though it has a good pace. Like as a Scream movie, it is just very poorly done. And these things don't even have to be searched for. They don't have to be dug out. It is just plain right there. I think having that, it really puts in perspective like the nitpicks about Scream 3. And then I think also because Scream 3 has had a reputation, the reputation almost contributed. It was almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a cycle of like, oh, I know Scream 3 is the worst because everybody says it is. So then when you go into Scream 3, you're feeling more negative about it and like in your headspace, and it affects the perception. And so I think all that to be said, I love your journey, and I love that you respect the third movie. All right, let's go do the speed round. You ready? Okay. So Sidney, Gale, or Ty?
I mean, Sidney. How good is Sidney though? And look, so I know you're doing the speed round, but I think I agree with you. Sidney in Scream 3 is pretty top notch.
Thank you. Heart. One way I've looked at it, I think this was true. I don't know. It's hard. Like life before Scream 5 and then life before Scream 6. Like, I would have said that like Gale Weathers is like, I think Gale hits more home runs than Sidney. I think every time Gale is up to bat, with the exception of 6, I think she always hits, whereas Sidney, I think that there are some that are better than others. I think the like Scream 1, Scream 3, amazing. Scream 2, excellent. Scream 4, a lot of people don't like her in Scream 4, but a lot of people are really passionate about the subtlety of Scream 4. And then, Scream 5 is a womp womp, so whereas Gale, I feel like every time Gale's up to bat, there's just something, she really hits it over the fence. So it's really hard. And that's what makes these characters so great, is the fact that, we have both of them and that they're pretty much on equal footing. So okay, Sam or Tara?
Sam.
Okay. Do you have an answer why?
Not a great one. Tara, I just didn't really connect with as much. I don't know. There's something about Sam, and they obviously were trying to make her the new Sidney, new final girl, but she had that complex past of being Billy's illegitimate daughter. So I like that angle.
Okay. Dewey or Chad? And is this even a fair question until we at least see Scream 7? I don't know.
Yeah. Look, Chad's a fun character, but he never should have survived 5, really. And I guess he became Dewey in that they loved him so much they brought him back. But the human pincushion in the 6th movie, like, there's no ways.
Favorite opening and favorite finale?
Favorite opening, I love Scream 2's opening. Favorite ending, I think I kind of actually like the 3rd. I think the intensity of the 3rd and just the setting, I would actually.
All right. And what is your favorite thing about Scream?
The fact that it's kind of accessible to everyone. I think Randy is kind of your voice, especially if you are getting into horror films and stuff like that. So him almost talking to you through the camera, through the screen. And then again, just all the different characters. Like I feel like everyone's represented in the Scream franchise at some point. So it can always be, you could be the Sidney, you could be the Billy, you could be the Randy. And look, the Ghostface mask is iconic. Like I don't think you can really beat it either.
I love your answers. And this was really nice getting to connect with you after our conversations online. So thank you so much for coming.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Ryan. I thought I needed to reach out to you and talk Scream, but it's, at least in my eyes, and I feel like other people I talk to, Scream 3 has definitely risen in people's lists because of 5 and 6. It shouldn't be like that. I think people are starting to have a great appreciation for especially Sydney's overall arc in the trilogy.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you wanting to come on. It's been great having you. Hello, everybody. We are with the Patreon of Scream with Ryan C. Showers celebrating Neve Campbell's birthday, October 3rd, also Mean Girls Day, also the Life of the Showgirl Day, which is so much fun. So I wanted to dedicate this Zoom to Neve and to Sidney. And we did a birthday episode for Neve like this 2 years ago during a very different time when we were thinking we would get a very different guy to Scream 7. So it's very fun to be sitting here on Neve's birthday thinking about the Sidney-centric Scream 7 we're about to get. So my question to everybody here is, what do we want to see from Sidney Prescott in Scream 7? All right. I'm going to start out with my friend, Amar. Hey, Amar.
Hey, Ryan.
It's so good to see you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You've talked to me on over 50 episodes about Sidney Prescott. What do you want to see from her in Scream 7?
When I was thinking about Scream 1 to 5 and everything that I've seen from her before, it's really hard to pinpoint what I really want from her. But because she's a mother, I think I expect her to be more brutal in a sense, because if the Ghostface is coming after her daughter and her husband, which is what I assume will be happening, then I expect her to be, the niceties to be pushed aside, and we see more of a badass Sidney, a darker Sidney, because she's seen all this before. She's been there before. She's tackled Ghostface, and they've come for her friends. They've come for people that she's grown to love, and family members like Jill or her aunt and everything, although she saw. But when it's your own child, it's a different ball game. So I expect Sidney to literally give no shits, even when she's being a mother. I expect her to really clash with her daughter quite a lot, actually. I want there to be a fantastic chase scene. I love chase scenes. I want there to be, a brutal Ghostface. I just want Sidney to literally take the bull by the horns and just go all out. She's had this threat a million times before. She knows what she's dealing with, but obviously each Ghostface is going to be different. But I'll just repeat myself. Yeah, as a mother and as a wife, I guess, I expect her to literally just be this shield that's going to try to protect her family and not give a shit. I hope she kicks Ghostface's ass big time.
Shield, Sidney the Shield. That is so beautifully put. And I think that where you started out here is the perfect place to start, because I've said this basically from the beginning. And after, we went from the Chris Landon movie to the Kevin Williamson movie, like my justification for insisting that Scream 7 proceed was that we've never seen Sidney in a situation where she's truly fighting for her offspring. We've never seen her in that situation where she's fighting for this other unit. She's always been protecting herself. You can kind of say that she was protecting Jill, but again, I think it's a bit different when it's like her flesh and blood. Amar, any final thoughts, or where can they find you online?
You can find me on Twitter or X with Amar Kareem, and then on Instagram, I'm just throwing out some posts. But yeah, I just want them to do the characters justice. I want it to be character-centric, but obviously I want it to have thrills. So I expect Kevin Williamson to be doing a good job, and I expect the film to be at least, enjoyable. I don't know if it's going to be the best one, but we'll see.
Okay. Well, I don't know. So this is actually a cool thing, too. So this will be a time capsule. I want to know where everyone is predicting Scream 7 to be in their ranking. So I'm going to kick us off. I'm going to say Scream 7 is going to be number 2 behind Scream 3 for me. So Amar, where do you think Scream 7 is going to fall in your ranking?
I'm going to just put it behind the original trilogy.
Yeah.
I'll stick with that for now.
Okay, sounds good. So, and because this is fun too, because we haven't seen a trailer, we have no impression of it. So we could see the trailer and be like, ew, this is like, even worse than Scream 6, I hope not. God, I would have wasted 2 years of my life here. So, okay, Amar, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go over to one of my favorite Sidney fans, my friend Lucas. Hey, Lucas, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. Lucas, you are a huge Sidney guy. You are incredibly supportive of Neve, and her being recentered in the franchise. I would love to hear what you would love to see for Sidney in Scream 7.
Just to see Sydney again for more than a couple of scenes is an embarrassment of riches at this point. But I feel like just echoing what Amar said, to see her as a mother is going to be really exciting. Something I want to see is the dichotomy between how she mothered and the way her mother mothered.
Ooh.
I really want to see her talk about Maureen and the fallout from that and how it's affected the way she wants to be viewed as a parent. Actually, it's kind of funny how we always talk about like legacy characters. This is a true legacy character and kicked this franchise off. I'm just really interested to see how that will carry down 3 generations with this family, with Maureen, Sydney, and now her daughter. So that's probably the most exciting thing I feel like for me.
So I got to ask, since you brought her up, do you think Tatum knows about Maureen? Do you think Tatum knows about Sydney's past? How much do you think Sydney's told Tatum?
I think it's going to be interesting to see how she parents, and not all people might agree with the way she parents. I'm wondering if Sydney's going to water down or whether she's going to be very frank, and if she's going to use that as a way to, again, shield. Amar, that was a great word to use for Sydney. Is it's going to be a shield for her with the way she parents or not. So I think that's going to be really interesting. And I hope they bring that up. It's such a pivotal part of the franchise. And it's something I've always missed, especially with the last few films, is Sydney talking about her mom.
Yeah. Well, and your favorite Scream 4. And there is a wonderful moment in Scream 4 that was cut that I wish would have stayed in, where Sydney's looking at the photos of Maureen on the, Rebecca, Allison Brie, hashtag Allison Brie. She says, she's like, oh, who's that? As she's checking her phone. And Sydney's like, oh, it's my mom. Rebecca doesn't give a shit.
Checking in at the DoubleTree, and that was her.
So I would love to see, for me, that was such a nice moment because the first 3 movies were so Maureen heavy. And this was like a nice capper. Like, ooh, we've milked that cow. We've moved on. So I would like for Maureen to be mentioned. I would like for Sydney to discuss that. And I would like it. I hope Kevin gets the point across that Sydney is now Maureen. If Tatum is in Sydney's shoes, Sydney is Maureen. You know, I really want that parallel to be clear.
Absolutely. I think he will deliver. I mean, he's always good at writing this kind of a family drama dropped into a high intense situation. So I think we're going to get that. I hope we're going to get that anyway.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Lucas, any final thoughts?
Just, I'm really excited. I think as everybody is. Again, we're in that moment before trailers and all that. So it's something you won't get to relive again.
Thank you for coming, Lucas.
Thank you.
Please welcome my friend Garrison.
Hi, guys.
So Garrison, hit me with it. What do you want to see from Sydney in Scream 7?
But what I really want, I just want to see a bunch of Sydney. I like the 3rd movie, a lot of how Sydney, like a lot of stoic, you could tell a lot of what she's feeling by the way she looks at things, the way that you are watching her. You know, I like the way you storytelling, like, locking the doors, but yet she still feels confident. I don't necessarily want a Sydney that's like scared and like hiding away, but I really like the idea in Scream 3 of Sydney helping people with when she was answering the phone service. I would like to see that more explored rather than her being a writer, which I know she's helping people by writing a book about surviving. But I would like to see, I don't necessarily want it to all be about her being a mom, even though that's a great theme. I think that's a good way to like have the movie circle around to that. But I do want to see Sydney living her life. I want to see her helping people because I think that's what she do. And I actually want to see Tatum, her daughter, being her life, if we're going to do the teenage thing with her as well, and then have come together as a team at the end. Like, I think I would enjoy that. I don't necessarily need their stories to be so intertwined through the whole movie. I would like to see Sydney be Sydney, kind of like how we kind of got a glimpse of that in Scream 2, and maybe a little in Scream 5. We don't necessarily know everything that's going on with Sydney in Scream 5, but I like how settled she was in Scream 5 and how she just wanted it to be over and she was ready. But I do like the fun that we got to see Sydney have in a little bit of Scream 2, and I do like where she's at in the world in Scream 3. So I'd like to see that pushed forward to a more settled Sydney, though not so scared all the time.
Well, you said that really well because like, as much as like it is interesting because it's novel, we haven't seen Sydney with a child before. So it's so interesting just to lunge to that. But you're right. We have the opportunity to see Sidney Prescott, a woman we've been with for 6 movies and almost 30 years at a completely different stage in her life. She's, she's probably pushing almost 50 years old. Like, and she's the center of this movie. That is something interesting. And I want to see who Sydney is as a person. Like, being a mom and being a wife are just slices of her. And I think that where we're going to see that come out is with Gail, of course, but with Anna Camp's character. as Sydney's friend, I think that because I hope that we get scenes with Sydney and Anna Camp before any violence happens. That way, I just want to see what Sydney's like as an adult and how she interacts with her friend, you know?
Yeah, I loved her interactions with Hallie before it kicked off, like in the dorm room and the hallway and at the party. I enjoy funny Sydney. I think she has, you know, has probably a very lovable personality outside of the seriousness.
You want to hear something funny about that? I got a Facebook message from somebody asking me, "Do you think Sidney Prescott is religious?" And this is the type of thing where it's like Facebook's wild, okay? But like Sydney specifically addresses like where she stands on religion in Scream 2. So it's just like, dude, watch the movies. You know,
You know how I feel about organized religion. It's a sorority.
worse. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, Garrison, I forgot to ask Lucas, so we're gonna circle back. Where do you predict Scream 7 is gonna fall in your ranking? Not having seen anything yet.
I don't know, like, when they kept announcing the cast and the teen cast and stuff, I was like, "I probably won't love it." But after the score and after really kind of some of the things that come out and after some of the pictures, I know I've seen things, I guess. I think it's gonna probably be right after the original trilogy. I think it'll be number 4 on my list because I think it's gonna play in a good way, not a way like to not to, plug my own show. I think it'll have very informed nostalgia, like, it'd be done right because Kevin Williamson's doing it. He's been consistently working. I do enjoy his TV shows. They make me feel like when I watch his more modern shows, it feels like it did whenever I was a teenager. So, and that's kind of about the Scream. Like I grew up with Scream. I grew up with Sydney being like a bigger, like a sister or a friend that's in an older part of time than you. So I'm excited about it, and I'm excited that we get our score back. That's our theme song.
Garrison, where can they find you and your YouTube show?
You can find me mostly on Instagram at Abandoners, and you can find YouTube under Abandoned 06. I have a show with Sam, and it's called Informed Nostalgia.
Well, so Lucas, where do you think Scream 7 is going to fall in your ranking?
Number one, but I'm confident like a number 2, 3 spot
Okay,
easily.
cool. Love it. All right. So we just hit Garrison. So let's go to his co host of his show on YouTube for Informed Nostalgia. Everybody, please welcome one of the co administrators of the Scream with Ryan C. Showers podcast. Please welcome Sam Levy. Hey, Sam.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all.
So, Sam, what would you like to see of Sydney in Scream 7?
I just want to see her living her normal life. I really do. I want to see her balancing work and home. I'd love to see her teaching theater or being the head of a theater department at a high school or a college and balancing that with being a crisis counselor because we know that that's like really what's in her heart and always has been. And I'd love to see her balancing that with being, married and having kids. I don't really want anything else. I don't even want Ghostface to bother her. I want her to be left alone. She deserves her happy ending, even though happiness and stability is normally seen as like boring when it comes to art because we need conflict because that's what we respond to as humans because we're all struggling with conflicts. Sometimes enough is just enough. And so I'm really ready to see her happy, or at the very least, if they were going to do it, just have it be almost like as a joke offhand, at the end of the movie, or just be like she gets a phone call at the end, and then like Ghostface shows up and she dispatches him within like 2 seconds. Honestly,
I hope that we get to see Sydney happy too. I hope that they really firmly establish Sydney who she is as a person before the horror starts happening. I think that's really important because we didn't see her last time and we barely saw her in 5. So I think it's important to reestablish and reintroduce her, before the trauma, if that makes sense.
absolutely. In fact, I am so opposed to Sydney and her family having to suffer even one more Ghostface attack that I would actually be happy to see them go to see a Taylor Swift concert.
Oh my God. It can be like Drop 2, starring Neve Campbell and Joel McHale. So Sam, where do you predict, and like, I feel like you're going to be like, Ryan, this is such a ridiculous question. Where do you predict Scream 7 is going to fall in your ranking?
Okay, I'm not going to say it's a ridiculous question because I know it's you. I know this is what you do, and we all love a ranking. And I love you, but if you know me, I'm not going to answer that question.
All right, so I'm going to predict for you. So I'm going to predict
Go
that Scream
ahead.
7 is going to be in the middle, probably above Scream 3. I'm going to say below Scream 4. I think it's going to go, because you really like Jill. I think Scream 7 is going to be below Scream 4 for you. So I think it's going to be like in the middle for your ranking. I think you're going to be impressed with it, but you're still going to put Jill ahead of that, I think.
That's a fair guess. I will accept that. I just feel like I just feel like it's too early and we don't know enough, but even if we did, I wouldn't want to do it because I don't want to put any expectations on it because that's how I've been disappointed with this before. Even though I do want this to be better than really would love this to be better than all the other sequels. I personally just don't see it happening, but again, I will be there. We'll be there in the theater and possibly in another state. Then I will be here in the chat with all of you.
Sam, I've already elicited, but where can they find you on YouTube and where can they find you online?
Okay, so they can find me on YouTube at Garrison's channel Abandon06 with our wonderful show Inform Nostalgia, where we make all sorts of fun trouble. And on my personal social media pages, where I'm not really as active as I usually am, but I will try to be. Just because I feel like it's so depressing being on social media right now, but I'll try and make it as fun as I can just to do my part. But my personal pages are Sam B. Levy on both Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. Sam, thank you so much for coming. And I'm going to link arms here. So just like I did with Garrison and Sam and Sarah, my other co-admin here. So everybody, please welcome Sarah Campbell. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Ryan.
Well, so in something that's very fun is that you get to see Scream 1 in theaters soon for the very first time. You've never seen any of the original trilogy in theaters, which is so fun.
I am so excited for that. Yeah. So my first in theater Scream experience was 4. So I've not seen any of the trilogy. So this is going to be super fun.
Well, that's awesome. Where do you want to see Sidney in Scream 7? What would you like to see from her?
I just want a realistic, evolved version of the Sidney we know and love. We've been with her for 25 years. So I think a really dramatic shift would be kind of jarring.
Yeah.
I really don't want a Laurie Strode, Sarah Connor, hyper vigilant Sidney who's focused on vengeance. Don't get me wrong, I want her to kick ass when she has to. We know she's capable, but I don't want her to lose the softer things that made her her. She's kind, empathetic, she's selfless. I'm excited to see how she is as a mother, but also a wife. It's been a hot minute since she could trust a man, but I'm kind of excited to see what that dynamic is going to be. I just don't want her to be hard and jaded after all the trauma. She's been through so much, so I hope that she's found a softer landing with her family. I trust Kevin to not mess it up, so I haven't really been thinking too much about what I want to see. I trust that he has a vision, and more than that, I trust that she wouldn't agree to do it if she didn't agree with the vision. So I feel like I'm going to be happy with her portrayal and just happy that she's back in focus.
So I have a question. So you brought up her attributes, her traits about I would love to know what you think about how Sidney has changed from when we really knew her in terms of the way I know Sidney is the original trilogy, kind of with 4 and 5, we barely get to see her. 5 is imagine if even the person who Sidney is in Scream 5, I'm not even sure if how much of that is her in terms of how she operates on a daily basis. Imagine if Laurie Strode in H2O got called to Haddonfield just for 12 hours, she would be a completely different person. I think we would see a different version of her. She'd be putting on her best face, or arriving in town versus in day to day, in H2O, we see her drinking, we see, with the vodka and doing the mouthwash and the Chardonnay, and she just has a different pattern of behavior. What do you think in terms of Sidney's lived-in experience we could see that would be different from the old Sidney?
I think she's just going to be a more badass version of her in 4, because in 4 she kind of, accepted that she was, now out of darkness. But then if you consider what's, happened in the events of 5 and then 6, she does have to be a little more vigilant. But I don't think it's going to go as far as the portrayal of Laurie has now. I think it's going to be a sweeter spot of just a more prepared Sidney from 4.
Yeah. I think that's such a great thing because I could never imagine Sidney being like Laurie in Halloween 2018. And that's funny because to me, Jamie Lee Curtis always wanted to play that version of Laurie, the really extreme, edgy, version. And I feel like Neve is the opposite. Neve would never want to play that version of Sidney. She would want to play Sidney more reserved, more subtle, and more human.
Yeah, I think the main difference for me when you think of I don't want to make this Sidney versus Laurie, but I think it's a good example. When Laurie thinks about the people she's lost, it's very dripped in trauma. It's losing these people was so traumatic for her. But when I think about Sidney reflecting on the people she's lost, she thinks about them more about how much she loved them as people. It's the way they treat the deaths were different between those two characters. And yeah, I think Sidney is just softer in general.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, Sarah, I have to ask, where do you predict Scream 7 is going to fall in your ranking?
Yeah, I think it was the same as Garrison. I think it's going to fall right after the original trilogy. I wouldn't be surprised if it fell after 4 for me. My ranking is like release order. So somewhere in that sweet spot in the middle, but I'm hoping it's, high.
Yeah. You know what, Sarah Campbell, you deserve it after like Scream 5 and 6 for you. I know how you feel about this. Justice for Sarah Campbell is what I say.
Have been through it. Thank you so much. I hope it's top 4. I hope it's top 4.
Sarah, tell everybody where they can find you online.
Yeah, I'm just on Instagram. It's sarah.campbell, or just search my name, Sarah Campbell. You'll also find me in Ryan's chat.
Sarah is with Sam, one of the co-administrators of the group, and she's just a good reference for me, and I love Sarah so much. So, Sarah, thanks so much for coming tonight and celebrating Neve on her birthday, and an allusion to Sidney.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right, well, so I'm going to do my best to have great transitions tonight. So we're going from one Sarah to another Sarah. This is across the Pacific Ocean, though. So everybody, please welcome Sarah. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
So glad I could make it.
Sarah, what do you want from Sidney Prescott in Scream 7?
It focuses Sydney as a mum. I'm really keen to see her day-to-day life at the very beginning as a mother and how she's broaching it. I know that Sarah talked about Laurie, or like it preached on the idea of like how Laurie did it. I want Sydney to be somebody who kind of kept the trauma inside, because I kind of feel like that's what she's done in previous films.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to happen that she's keeping a lot inside and she's going back and about her normal day. And then when stuff starts happening, she's going to have some kind of one-on-one with her daughter about what happened. I think it's going to come out. And Sydney, for me, especially in the original like 4 movies, was all about her face expressions. I feel like I've talked about that before, but she's so face. And I want those emotional scenes from Sydney where she has to deal with stuff and she has to face it and talk about it with her daughter and her husband, I guess. But I feel like he might be more in the know. And then I'd really like some very tense chase scenes, like the chase scene that's not over the top. I want like a Sydney chase scene that's a little bit like the sound booth with Gail, but for Sydney. I want that kind of thing, because I feel like she can do the face and the terror and the trauma of it all.
I'm glad that you mentioned the face, because like Neve Campbell's performance in the first 3 films, I mean, even 4 to an extent, but 4 is a little bit different, is all about the face. The internalization of how she portrayed Sidney is so, so good. And that's what I'm missing. I'm craving it. I want to see that again. And it would be even more so because Neve is now an actress who's been working for decades. So has even more experience to kind of funnel that. So I think that would be like a huge priority for me, is to see Neve Campbell just get to serve the Sidney internalized emotional face.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like she can just portray it really well. I know I've talked about it before, but Sydney in Scream 3 is like ultimate Sydney face. The stuff where she drops the dog food and she learns about cotton is just everything. She says nothing and she gives everything. And I want more of that. I think I would just like fall apart in the cinema if I got to see more of that Sydney. And I know Neve Campbell can bring it.
Yeah.
So.
No, I hope so too. Oh my God. Well, Sarah, where do you predict Scream 7 is going to fall in your ranking?
I predict it will be after the trilogy. I think it'll land somewhere like 4. That's my definite prediction, but I'm happy to be like shocked. I have all faith in Kevin. I always have. I know someone mentioned Dalton's Creek. I have so much faith in him. So if he brings it out of the bag and it's like sits at 1 or 2, great. It'll sit there. I
hope Kevin surprises everybody. And it's like Scream 7 is like, it goes like, and for everybody who ranks the original first, that 7 just falls behind, 1 for everybody. That would be like such a dream for it to be like a consensus, like it's the best sequel ever. We'll see. We'll see. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for coming. Any final thoughts, and where can they find you online?
I'm just on Instagram now. So I'm Sarah Amy X. That's me. So you can always chat horror with me, or Taylor Swift, or Dawson's Creek over there.
Well, Sarah, thanks so much for coming. All right. So Sarah brought up Dawson's Creek. So we're going to make another great transition here over to one of my favorite people, the woman who got me into watching Dawson's Creek, the woman who, let's be real, she forced me to watch it with her on Zoom. And, it is what it is. I'm working my way through the series. I love her. So everybody, please welcome my good friend, Mama Ghostface, Carrie Tenney. Hey, Carrie.
How's everybody?
Good. I feel like I watched a lot of Dawson's Creek with you really hard at first, and I really struggled over the summer with my schedule. I promise to get back into it.
Season 3 is the best. So you were like almost when it really started taking off and like became what everybody loves about it. Yeah.
I'm going to get back into it.
By the way, everyone, there's a big Dawson's Creek reunion next Monday. I don't know if it's going to be live streamed or not, but it's live from New York and Kevin will be there. It's all for F Cancer for James Vanderbeek. It's all for charity, but the entire cast is reuniting to do basically a table read of the pilot episode.
Which written by Kevin. So Carrie, okay, please tell everybody what you would like to see from Sidney in Scream 7.
I'd still like to see her like be fierce, not bitter, but just fierce like she was in Scream 2. But I do hope that this time around she maybe has more well-rounded instincts with her trust issues.
Ooh, I like it.
I also think that um she'll kind of be like this is kind of like harkening back to the book that Neve said about long monologue in Scream 5, you're losing me, aka I'm bored. I definitely think she won't be able or willing to put up with anyone's BS. I think she's just so over it. I definitely think she'll be like the antithesis of a soccer mom slash PTA president.
Well, it's interesting that you brought up trust issues because her trust issues, I feel like, haven't been like supremely explored since really Scream 2. Scream 3, there's so much going on there. Like her trusting people is like the least of her worries. And in Scream 4, she's very, I guess she's really betrayed by Jill, but I feel like Scream 2 is the last movie to really cover her trust issues on its face. So you're right. I would love to see this. Like, who does she suspect? Is she going to suspect, Mark? That would be weird. Or is their marriage going to be seen as like unbreakable trust bond? We're in this together. We're partners. What do you think, Carrie?
I think she's always going to be on guard no matter what and no matter who it is. Just think with Mark, she will be on guard, but maybe just 25%.
Yeah.
I think I would hope by the time we see her in Mark that they've been married for quite a number of years and she knows him inside out.
Yeah. No, I think that like for Sidney to get married and have children with a man, she would have to be really, really sure. And I don't want that to be broken for her. I want to see them in love. I want to see them committed. I want to see them as partners. So
yeah.
But well, Carrie, I know this is it's an odd question, but where do you think Scream 7 is going to fall in your ranking?
I think it's going to be the third in the ranking. It's going to be 1, 4. I'm pretty sure it's going to be 7 after that.
You also have a thing for 4s and 7s when it comes to horror sequels.
Yeah, my favorite in like Halloween franchise is H2O, which is the 7th, and Halloween 4, Nightmare on Elm Street 7, Wes Craven's New Nightmare is my favorite.
Carrie, any final thoughts here about Sidney?
No, just looking forward to seeing Sidney being a mom, doing her thing.
Awesome. Well, Carrie, where can they find you online?
You can find me on X Twitter as at NerdGirlMD, NERDGRLMD. Thank you.
All right, everybody, next up, you just heard him recently on an episode about mental health in the Scream movies and the depiction of mental health in Scream. Everybody, please welcome Phil, aka P. Dougie05. Phil, how are you?
Good, how are you? Hey, everybody. How's it going?
It's really nice to see you. I love when you can come to the Zooms. So we had a really nice discussion with Jess recently on the show about mental health. But what would you like to see of Sidney overall in general from Scream 7?
I have a list as I was thinking about this last night. So I'll get the superficial thing out of the way that no one has mentioned. I want to see Sid in some killer outfits.
Ooh,
because I feel like her fashion is always a thing. And that's just been a thing throughout the series for all the characters. Less mom vibes from Scream 4, but just like kind of kick-ass Sid. She needs her jacket. I feel like that is a true Sidney staple. So I want to see that in everything that everybody else has talked about. I want to see Mama Bear. But when I really look at my list, kind of what it encompasses is I want to see emotionality from her. I want that in relationships. So her relationship with Gail, what does that look like and how it has traversed time? What does that look like with Mark and her kids? Do you think she will be a person who kind of internalizes that trauma, but will kind of be in everything? She'll be that parent who is kind of at everything or has a part and like she's going to be the soccer mom and she's going to volunteer for PTA and she's running her own business because she's just a badass and that's what she does as a protective measure. But the kids don't necessarily know that or understand that yet. I love to see mentions of Dewey and how she has grieved that because we don't get to see that at all since she wasn't in 6. And really, she's just there for Gail in 5. Some sentiment between her and Tatum of like why she's named Tatum And so back to that
Yeah.
emotionality. And someone had mentioned it earlier. I think it was Lucas. I really want to see it, and it doesn't have to be words, just the facial expressions and as you're watching it, but her reflecting on her being a mom, but her mom is not there anymore. Her kids don't have a grandma, or they do, but with Mark's mom. And so some really deep emotional reflection around that for her of what's it like? Like, I don't get to share motherhood with my mom and get to talk to her about that. And as a parent, like, it's what you want. And as a parent who has lost a parent not too long ago, like, it's those things that you really wish for. So I want to see all that from her, the highs, the lows, all the good stuff.
I think the emotionality and the emotional connection in her relationships is something that I am desperately in need of. I want to see like the type of like relationship that she had with Dewey. I would like to see almost that same level of connection with Gail. I think that their relationship is so interesting. It's so fascinating. Scream 5 kind of shortchanged us just a little bit because we get a little bit of them. We get a taste, but like it never really goes as deep as a lot of us wanted to. So I really want to see how they interact. And even so, like they don't have to be BFFs the whole time. I mean, I'm sure there could even be conflict or they could disagree about their approach and just seeing how they overcome that. So I love that answer, Phil. I mean, that's what I want from Sidney. It's all about emotion. And I miss that. I miss the emotionality of those relationships from the original films. Sidney Prescott's emotionality. I like it.
And yeah, just her trauma. I don't know how she would hide something. If we're rooting things in reality that the series tries to do, I don't know how she could hide this from her kids.
Yeah.
There are movies out there, like even not living in Woodsboro, like her kids' friends have to know about the stab movies. Like kids talk, and with social
Yeah.
media, there's just no way she could keep it hidden. And so, yeah, how does she navigate that? Which is kind of a parent theme of how do you protect your child from the scary things out in the world that you don't want them to see.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so Phil, where do you predict Scream 7 is going to fall in your ranking?
Okay, so listen, I remember when Scream 6 was coming out, I had very high hopes for Scream
And
6, and I thought it would be at the top.
we
So,
did this. We did this exact game back
yes,
then,
we
all
did.
those years ago.
So I'm kind of tempering my expectations. I think, like many people have said, I think it will fall after the quadrilogy. I think it'll be before 5 and 6, definitely, since Kevin's involved and Nev's back. And we'll see. If it goes higher than that, great. I think that's awesome. But I think it'll definitely be above 5 and 6 in whichever place it kind of falls.
Awesome. So cool. Well, Phil, where can they find you? I'll let you say it this time.
Well, yes, you can find me on X. I'm not really on there much anymore as PW05, or I'm probably on Facebook mostly as Philip Douglas. I have an Instagram, but I never really use it, and it's mostly just me reposting political stuff.
Cool. Well, Phil, thanks for coming and for supporting the show.
Thanks all.
All right. Well, so going from the first person you heard on the mental health episode about a week ago to the second person, my other mental health expert here, everybody, please welcome my dear friend, Jess Melendez. Hey, Jess.
Hey, Ryan. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. This conversation has been really enlightening. Everyone has such good ideas.
Well, you always have like, the cream of the crop when it comes to good ideas. Like, I feel like you get the series and you get Sydney so well. Sometimes, like, I think sometimes when we talk, it's just like, I feel like, wow, I feel like Jess knows Scream better than me. I feel like she knows the ins and outs of like Sydney and what Wes was doing even greater than me. So I'm curious to hear what your answer is. So, Jess, what would you like to see from Sydney in Scream 7?
Well, that's high praise because I feel like you live Scream so much, you know? But for me, I have a few things that I've been thinking of. And I guess I'll start with the parenting. Everyone's been talking about that. With Tatum, I think she definitely has some idea. Like Phil said, there's no way she doesn't. And I think that that's a good thing because all these requels have done the whole, the young person doesn't believe and they're a brat and all this other stuff leading into belief and then standing with. So I think it's interesting and it's actually kind of appropriate because it puts Tatum in the same position that Sydney actually was in Scream 1, where she fully believed in her mother, fully believed that Cotton did it, and wasn't buying anything that Gail was selling, you know? So I think that's interesting. I think it's a good theme to go with, this sort of black and white thinking and how maturing means understanding your parents as full-fledged human beings. And so it's interesting seeing Sydney in a position of being Maureen, like you mentioned, where she actually has to maybe even reflect on how she judged her mother, right? Because now she's asking for grace from her own daughter. you know? And instead of building this relationship up, I think what they can do, if this is going to be a trilogy, that 7, something should happen where, because we have children involved, that maybe Sidney has to do something she's never had to do before. Make a decision that she knows is going to cost someone their life, but is going to protect her children.
Yeah.
Tatum and everyone, we should be privy to this as the audience. This would be a shocker moment, but I don't think Tatum should know. Tatum's going to figure this out later, that her mother did that, you know, deliberately. And that could be like, you know, she believed in her mother. She thinks her mom's a hero. She was raised with her mother as a hero, as a survivor. And she's like, but you just did that, you know? So have that sort of moral conflict that obviously Sidney had to do that. But, you know, Tatum is still young, so maybe she can't quite connect to that just yet. And this have the series sort of go forward with Tatum sort of maturing as a daughter and growing with her mother. And I was also thinking about, I want to see Sidney having to like rush to save Gale, you know, like making that decision to save her and being successful. We're not killing Gale in my world. But the reason I say that is because Gale herself, you know, like she has a lot of guilt. You know, she always mentions it in the movies, like, I'm a good person. She often says something to that effect. And to have Sidney save her, I feel like would be like the ultimate proof to her that she is a good person, because Sidney went out of her way to make sure she was okay. Right.
Mhm.
And I want to see, you know, I think that Sidney, I know people have been saying she's, you know, she internalizes, and yes, she does. Throughout all these movies, she typically internalizes. But let's say that Sidney has been therapized, and let Gale be the internalized part of this dyad that we have going on, and like have Sidney watching Gale play with her kid, and maybe even see like these very emotional moments come out with Gale, but Sidney doesn't say anything. And sort of like after this big moment of like saving Gale, that could be the shift in their relationship where, you know, Gale is no longer that guarded and can finally start letting herself trust and talk to Sidney because she feels worth it now, like worth the relationship. And there's no longer this big divide between them of the guilt and whatever when she says, I started this in 5 and stuff.
You know, Jess, you just like, if we were doing a debrief on how they could have made Scream 6 better, had Neve Campbell been paid what she was worth, that would, imagine instead of Sam and Tara saving Gale in the apartment, imagine that moment if Sidney would have saved her. You know, imagine her storming in and shooting at Ghostface and him running off, and Sidney going over to Gale and like putting her hand on like the wound to stop the bleeding. Imagine that. And that would just, especially because of what Gale was up to in Scream 6 and like the dark place that she was in that that wasn't expanded upon, that would have been so good. So I think that you're definitely onto something about linking those two, like the two women and what they're each kind of going through, and like how Sidney could be that for Gale. I think that's actually would be a really cool thing.
Think I want Sidney and Gale to have a particular type of relationship. Maybe it even reflects some sort of motherhood, some sort of mentorship, like having Gale be there for her and Sidney be there for her in the ways that Gale lacks. But I also, um, because if you think about Scream 1, Tatum is that middle ground of like this womanhood spectrum that we have going on. And now we literally have a Tatum again. So there's so many different ways they can play with this wavelength of what does legacy mean? What does it mean to be a woman? And one last idea I had for this was that if they wanted to make it like really have some good commentary about where we are at now with all this true crime stuff, they would have, because remember now Gail's going to be so closely aligned with Sidney. So it doesn't make sense to have her writing these provocative and sensationalized books. There should be some true crime person or some commentator that believes that they know everything and that's challenging the expert, who would be Gale.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting, you know, because now you're playing with reality, playing with what's real, what's not real. And we see how that gets immensely conflated in real life. And that could even affect Tatum as a character. You know?
So, Jess, I have to ask, I know that you are a bit cynical when it comes to the quality of new sequels, but where do you think Scream 7 is going to fall in your ranking?
Truly hope that it's up there in the top 3. I would love it to. I think it has the potential to, because of how emotional and nostalgic and the stakes of this film really is, because it truly is like Sidney, you know, and her family. And like, this is all that's left. Like 5 and 6, whatever, like that's over there. This is what's left. Sidney is Scream. If we lose Sidney, that's it. Like, these are the highest stakes, right? So for me, I would hope that it makes my top 3.
So, Jess, where can they find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter as RavenFX5 and Blue Sky.
Awesome. So, all right, Jess, thank you. All right, I'm going to head on over to my friends over at the Scream Queens podcast. It's so funny because I just got a notification from Facebook that it's been 1 year to the day that we met at one of my favorite wineries in person. I got to meet them. It was so much fun. So everybody, please welcome Josh and Justine.
Hey, Ryan.
What's up, baby? How are you?
I'm well. It's so nice to see you too.
I'm just chilling like a villain. Happy to be here.
I recorded this episode with Josh and Justine and Ashley about closure in July this past year when it premiered on Justine's birthday. And it was like, it's one of my favorite episodes that I've ever done on this show. So just thank you two for giving that idea. You guys, like, I came into that episode, I was like, I know what I'm going to say. I'm going to rock this thing. And I feel like I was the least accomplished of the four of us. That was such a good episode. So you guys, applause, sneaker snaps for you guys on that one. So okay. You both love Sidney and Neve. You guys are super fans. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about Sidney in Scream 7. Oh my God, returning to the lead role. Let's start with Josh. What would you like to see from Sidney in Scream 7?
I'm just happy that we're not getting just a cameo or like coming in the final act as like the savior role, from as we suspect and everything that's been reported, she's going to be the narrative anchor and she's going to be central to the plot's tension resolution, which I'm really excited about. But I'm really hoping for a great set piece or chase, a la like her epic Scream 1 chase or the car scene in Scream 2. Just another really great Sidney Prescott moment that goes down in the Scream history. I also, too, really want to see like a true partnership and friendship with Gail that got teased a lot in 5. And how they come in guns blazing at the end of 5. And they really have each other's back in those scenes, and they really feel concerned and vulnerable with each other. And I want to see more of that. I really want to, like I said, a true partnership. I want to explore that friendship. You go from their true adversaries in part 1. We've gone so far now that I really want to see what they can do when they team up.
And the idea of action, I feel like Sidney has some of the, she has the best action moments in the franchise, right? You could look at all 4 of the films where she's the lead, and there is action heavy moments for her, right? Falling off of, out of the window at Stu's house, the cop car scene, the Stab 3 chase scene, Kirby's house, she's on the roof running around. Like, I want to see huge action moments for Sidney Prescott here.
Me too. And that's one of my favorite moments in 5 is when she ends up having to go into the house by herself and she tussles with Ghostface, falls off the banister, or off of from the second floor. Yeah, I just want more of that. I want her vulnerability. I want to see how she is as a mother, how she's been dealing with the trauma of 5 and even 6, even though she's not there, but we hear she went into hiding. See how she kind of, the ins and outs of her family life, how she is as a wife with Mark and as a mother, and how that shapes like this new chapter with a new Ghostface.
Justine, how about you?
Well, I definitely echo a lot of what Josh said. We're like the same. We share thoughts, but I want to add to, like, I want an intense like chase scene, but I want to add like a fun, fast, like scary chase scene between Sidney and Gail, like just so heart like pounding, or I don't know, something that's just like got her fully mama beared out, like some kind of like defensive chase scene with her daughter, like just super fucked up intense and kind of pushing the boundaries of like those like high stakes moments that you have with those that you love the most, and kind of really just see her in like a different way where previously she's been like a little externally traumatized, like she's emoting a lot of like, oh my God, this shit's like happening to me like right now. I see this Sidney like knowing like, yeah, I fully know what people are capable of. Nobody's gonna pull a fast one on me. I'm gonna be the one that's prepared. I think she is gonna tear a bitch up for sure.
That emotional aspect like that you described in a chase scene or in a moment like that, like I know what you mean. It's something very specific that Neve brings. And like I remember after Scream 6 came out and I was rewatching Scream 4, I was like, the intimacy and how intense the connection is between like Neve and Emma Roberts in that finale. Like that's something that I felt like, ooh, wow, I haven't seen that in a while. And that is true of Neve in all of the finales. But there's something like, I want to see that edge that you're talking about, like that extra passion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
When she's fighting. That's a really good observation.
I just want some like real on the floor, rolling around, like grappling, reaching for the gun. And like, we're all like on this, like the edge of our seats because, well, we know she's a fighter. And we know she has everything inside her. She's capable of winning over on Ghostface every time. So it's almost like we just want to see how she makes it out of this one.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point, and I hope that's what we get. Josh and Justine, see, Justine's right. You guys are like one entity. You guys share a brain. I don't even give you guys each your own turn. It's like Siamese twins. So where do we think that Scream 7 is going to fall in the rankings, Josh?
I'm really hoping at least after the quadrilogy, but if, 1 and 2 are my favorite, so I would just be so pleased if it came after that. But if
Yeah.
it came after 3 and 4, I would, after the original 4, I would be extremely happy with that too. And I think it will. I think
Too.
Kevin at the helm and all the early reporting, I think this is going to be something special. I really hope so.
Justine, how about you?
Well, I mean, I bet you it's going to slide into my like number 2 spot for a little bit. I do think it's going to be like, yeah, something we've never seen before, but with Kevin, it's lightning in a bottle.
So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Where can they find you guys online?
Find us anywhere you listen to podcasts at Scream Queens Horror Road Trip Podcast, and we're on all the socials at Scream Queens Podcast.
I love you guys. Thanks for coming.
Love
Thank you,
Thank
Ryan. Love you bunches.
All right, I'm gonna go over now to another Josh, to my friend Josh Calamari. Oh my God, hi, honey.
Honey, how are you?
I'm good. I was like, I was prepared. I was like, if Josh Calamari comes in, I need to call him honey because he always calls me honey. So I wanted to beat him to the punch.
You?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm good, honey.
So, Josh, I want you to tell everybody, when is your birthday?
The day Scream comes out.
Yeah, isn't that cool? What do you want to see of Sidney in Scream 7?
In Scream 7, if you want to be honest, everyone's talking about her being emotional. I want her to be like, get laid a lot, like have a couple of cocktails with her friends, like have some fun. The poor girl's spent her whole life being so goddamn serious and like, great, you're a mother and great, you're married, but like get your back blown out, girl. Have some fun. Have some cocktails with Gail. Like, want to be at a bar dancing, something fun. The poor girl needs some fun in her life. Like, I don't know, honey. The poor girl's been through so much bullshit in her life. She just needs to have some fun. They go to a gay bar and they're big, like homo honeys. Like, just all the gays love them. And oh God, there'd be so much fun. And like Ghostface shows up there, maybe. I don't know. Something fun, honey. I don't know. It's all too serious. And yeah, I just wanted to.
Imagine Gail and Sidney going to a gay bar. Gail would be like she would.
Oh, she'd be right up there on the pole dancing with the drag queens. Honey, please, that's what I'm living for.
Oh my gosh. Well, what would you like to see besides the bar hopping between Sidney and Gail? Like, do you want to see something with them in terms of like an action moment, a moment where they kind of get to tag team Ghostface or something? What would you like to see?
Honey, I'm going to be controversial, and this is where I'm coming from because I said it once and I'll say it twice. I love Scream 5, and I love the ending of Scream 5. I love how they're emotional together. I've seen the movie. I don't watch them that much, but the times that I've seen it when they're crying together and after Dewey's dead and they see each other, and honey, that's what I want. If we're going to go down the emotional, I want those two to be together and just be like crying and like, oh God, there is nothing better. There is nothing better when they're in the last part of Scream 5 when they're together. I just want them to all those years of being friends and all the bullshit that they've been through to use it and just like fuck some people up and like all about it.
Love it.
Honey, Sam and Tara aren't in that movie in Scream 7, so that's a bonus.
Where do you predict Scream 7 is going to fall in your ranking?
5, 2, somewhere, and then I like 1. So between 1 and I don't know, honey. I only seen Scream 4 once, and I don't really understand that movie, and Scream 6 sucks. So somewhere between 2 and 1. So like 3 or 4 maybe.
Okay. I like it. Well,
honey, I'm so happy to see you. That's why I came on here. Jess Melendez, can I just say, God, she is fucking smart, honey. She is smart in the things that she says. I could listen to that girl all day. She needs her own podcast.
That's why I try to have her on as much as I can. She's just like, it's like the Church of Jess. I love it.
Give a shout out to that cute guy, Lucas. He added me on Instagram and he's so sweet. I think his boyfriend is so nice.
Well, there you go. So, all right. Well, Josh, where can they find you online?
Mama J0226. Yes, that's what I am. Follow me, guys, and I'll follow you back.
All right. So everybody, now let's go over to my friend Bria. Hey, Bria.
Hey.
Bria is like my resident Sabrina fan. Did you like Sabrina's new album?
I love it. And for anyone who doesn't know, I love Sabrina like Ryan and Ashley loved it.
Love it. Bria, what do you want to see of Sidney in Scream 7?
I just want to see her living as like a normal person. I would want to see her and her relationships with her family, her friends. I would love to see how she parents, especially with like all that she's been through. And I kind of want to see her mourn Dewey because we never saw that in 5, and especially like in 6 she wasn't there, obviously. So like I kind of want to see like how she's coping with that. And yeah, I just kind of want to see like her live a normal life.
I love that. And like you're so right about Dewey. Someone brought him up earlier, but I'm glad that you're giving him a proper shout out. Like I want to see and I want to feel what Sydney feels about Dewey. Like their relationship is so underrated in the Scream fandom. I'm not in just in terms of the discourse. Like Dewey is so important to Sydney, and I think like to really get Scream, you have to get them in a way. So I really hope that we get to see that. And I think that and I'm not here to like rag on Radio Silence, but I think that that's one thing that they did rob us of in Scream 5 was her specific reaction to Dewey. She was there for Gail. I wanted to see what Sydney was like for herself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Bria, where do you think Scream 7 is going to fall in your ranking?
I think it's gonna fall probably in the number 2 spot. A bunch of people are coming back. We don't really know exactly what's going on. Snee's getting her family, and we never seen her in a role like this before. So yeah, I think it will be really interesting.
All right. Well, Bria, please tell everybody where they can find you online.
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Bria Patterson.
Awesome. So, all right, everybody, I'm going to move over from one B to another. I'm still trying to make the nice transitions here. Everybody, please welcome my friend Blake. Hey, Blake.
Hey, what's up, Ryan?
You knew it was coming because I saw you unmute.
Yeah, I was paying attention to the chats. I was trying to stay on my A game.
Oh my gosh. Well, Blake, how are you? Thanks for coming.
I'm doing really good. Today's my off day, so I've just been chilling. I'm currently in bed coming to you live. But yeah, no, it's been an uneventful day, and I'm just excited to dig in with you.
Well, so and just because, how I identify my people, my friends, we have a bunch of Taylors, we have Sabrina, and Blake is my resident Beyonce person. So
yes, if anybody ever wants to talk and giggle and kick their feet with me about Beyonce, my DMs will be open.
Yeah.
First and foremost, want to see a really developed relationship with her and her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Not as worried. I think she has multiple kids. I'm not sure, but I'm not as worried about the younger ones. I really just want her and Isabel May to have a really tender, thought out, well written relationship. I think it's so important because I think Isabel May could potentially lead Scream film in the future. So I think it's just really important that the foundation of their relationship is laid and that they are really united. I know that Neve Campbell's made some comments about Sidney being potentially a stricter parent or an unconventional parent, but I don't want that to get in the way of their connection, really. I want Tatum or whatever they name her. I'm not sure if Tatum's her name, but whatever her daughter's name is, I hope that she understands the gravity of what's going on around her. And so, yes. And I also want there to be parallels that causes Sidney to reflect on her own relationship with her mother. And really takes us back to the emotional core of the original trilogy. Okay, so other than that, I want to see a really physical performance from her. I love Sidney most when she's either punching or kicking Ghostface in the face. And I just think any opportunity that she gets to play around and really show off, she nails it. And she being Neve Campbell, both Sidney and Neve Campbell.
Well, can I just add to that real quick? Is like part of like something that's so memorable about Sidney in those early films, and like I even up through 4 is how physical her performances were. And kind of going back to the action before, because Neve's background in dancing, her physical performance was always unique because of the background in dancing, if that makes sense. So I agree, but go on.
No, and that's why I feel the way I do is because she started out as a dancer. I feel she's so good with choreographed scenes. And so I think that we'll really get to see her I want to see a Sidney in this film that is really on Ghostface's toes, that is really ready to unmask this villain. And so I think it's going to have us on the edge of our seats and really keep us guessing, but not without making our main character seem dumb or not capable in that way of solving the murders. But the last thing that I want to see is just a really connected Sidney and Gale arc. I really want to see them, like, I want to see the continued evolution of their relationship, in which they've gone from being adversaries in the first film to now very good friends and practically family at this point. And I just want to see them kind of love on each other a little bit. Not like they don't have to, explicitly be lovey dovey, but just like, I just want to see some real emotional connectedness between those two characters in this film.
I think that's a really great way to put it. And I loved how you put it earlier about Isabel May and the writing and how it needs to be really smart and strong. And like, this is like, we can't go back and redo this. So they have to get it right. They have to get Sidney and her daughter right this time. And it has to be 100%. And I hope that, and I trust Neve and Kevin. I think that they wouldn't treat it so cavalierly. So I think that you make a really good point there. So Blake, please tell me, where do you predict Scream 7 is going to fall in your ranking? And I know it's hard because you genuinely love all of the movies. Like, your ranking, I feel like it kind of shifts. Like, you've shared with me on the show such cool opinions about all of the movies over the years. So I'd love to know where you think it's going to fall.
So, yeah, like you said, my love for these films is very fluid, and it kind of, I'd say the bottom 3 positions, bottom 4 positions switch often. I think it'll be up there with Scream 2 for me. I just think it has the potential to be the most kick-ass sequel. And especially, we get a taste of characters from Scream 5 and 6. That's not completely lost in this film. And then we also have old legacy characters that are coming back to really hold down the story this time. This time, the story is about them, not the newer generation as much. So I think it could be the perfect legacy sequel that we've all been dying for, that no franchise has really done perfectly.
I think you're right. I think the way that you just said that is absolutely true. I think this is going to be like the example of like how to do. I think that's a really awesome way of putting it. So Blake, please tell everybody where they can find you online.
Twitter, it's at BUHLAAAAKE. It's me mocking my grandma the way she says my name. But anyway, and then on Instagram, it's my last name, Beatty, BAT, 4 E's and Y. I guess I have a theme going.
Exactly. Well, Blake, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome.
All right, everybody, I'm going now over to my good friend, Detective Wallace. How are you, Allie?
You missed a solid transition to the A with the A's in his name.
Fuck, yes, I did. But welcome, Allie. Allie with the A. Hey.
First of all, happy birthday to our Scream queen, Neve Campbell. What an honor it is that we get a Taylor Swift album on Neve's birthday. Unreal. It's going to be a great day.
Allie, what do you want to see of Sidney in Scream 7?
I am most excited to see how she's evolved, because every movie we get to see her like build and build and build and become this like better, stronger person. And we now actually will get to see her as a mom, which will be exciting. And I do think that she will have had full transparency with Tatum about her history and the history with Maureen. Because like you guys said, it would be too hard for her to avoid, like with the movies and, the stories in Gail's books and all of that other stuff. Like, it's a legacy. And I think that she would, at an appropriate age, have that discussion with Tatum and however many other kids there are. Because I think it would also just be a great healing and, a learning step from her past, with the relationship with, Maureen was a secretive person, and I don't think Sydney's going to be that way.
Ooh.
So
that's good. I
think,
that.
Yeah, I think that that's going to be, a prominent part of her relationship and, her being honest with this Mark, it's not Kincaid, is, that's something that's, obviously something that she would hope would not happen again, but something that they would need to be prepared for.
That's beautifully said. And I never thought about it that way. And we love a Scream 3 person like you bringing it to my attention. Sydney's obsessed with her mom's secrets. It would be interesting to see if Sidney continues the pattern of, as a mom, keeping secrets, or if she reverses course and she realizes how much she hated knowing that her mother had secrets from her, and if she is going to be open to Tatum. That is excellent, Allie. I love that. Oh my God, made my night.
I mean, I think we kind of got
a part of that strength and that growth from her line in 5 where she says, "I've got kids and I won't rest until he's in the ground." Like she's not gonna hide from that past anymore.
I
Like
love that.
she drove flew, whatever, traveled specifically to Woodsboro to kill the killers. Like, that was her. So I don't think that, I think this is a newer, tougher Sydney that is a lot stronger and a lot more no nonsense. Like somebody said earlier, like zero fucks given. Like she's gonna be hardcore, and I'm excited to see that. I do want to see a chase. We need that. We need some good suspense and kind of get your heart pumping.
Well, Allie, where do you predict Scream 7 is going to fall for you in your ranking?
I think, and I'm sure I'm putting a lot of faith in Kevin. I think this is going to fall squarely in 3rd place. It's going to be 317. I don't know. Oh, I want to hold on to that hope that it will be that good. I
Yeah.
do have a lot of faith in Kevin.
I mean, that's what I think for myself, so I love it, and I would love for us to be on the same wavelength. Twins, yeah, we're twinning. Exactly, we can twin with our. So Allie and I actually have the same Taylor Swift merch coming, and we'll be wearing it at the October Zoom twinning. So just so everybody knows, we're not going to tell. We will say nothing else. But so, anyways, Allie, where can they find you online?
I am on Twitter and Blue Sky. Allie_cat_BSG_ on Twitter, hyphens on Blue Sky.
All right. Let's move over now to my friend Brett. Hey, Brett.
Hi, Ryan.
I would love to know what you want to see of Sydney in Scream 7.
Do you want to see Sydney evolve a lot more, like also be there for her daughter and everything as well? But I also want to see a scene between the Meeks twins and Sydney.
Yeah.
Because it's never been done in Scream 5. And it should have as well, about them talking about Randy, because that's like that was also one of our friends that she also couldn't save in Scream 2. And she has to have some sort of guilt about that as well, because in Scream 2 she said it shouldn't have been Randy, it should have been me. She felt guilty that he's gone because that was one of her close friends, and he's no longer a part of her life anymore.
Yeah. Excellent. I love that idea. And I, because she didn't get to speak to either of them in Scream 5, literally.
Did, and it's like, why take that away from them? And I do also want to see like Gail and Sydney become even closer.
Well, Brett, where do you think Scream 7 is going to end up in your ranking?
It's so hard to say, but I think it's going to be definitely around 3 and 4, but less than 5, because 5, I'm just looking back at 5 and 6, every time I go back and watch them, it just doesn't. They feel so much not like, I don't know, but I just know that those are kind of like low on my list. But I want it to be up there with the quadrilogy, like completely up there with all 4 movies.
I hope that's the case, my friend.
Me too.
Brett, please tell everybody where they can find you online.
They can find me on Facebook at Brett Allen Janarich, and Twitter and Blue Sky, Scream 4 Fan 14, and Instagram at Angel Allen J.
Awesome. Thanks for coming, Brett.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody, please welcome my producer, Squirrel and Spud, Ashley Summers. Hello.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to see everybody's faces. Everybody looks so beautiful.
Well, it's a state of grace that we're here.
It's true.
It's holy ground. The Sydney songs. So, Ashley, welcome.
Oh my gosh, I'm honored. It was so fun listening to what everybody has to say. I love hearing everybody's thoughts. We have such a fun group and everybody's so smart. And I'm always like, that's a really good idea.
Well, Ashley, I want to ask you this first. Where do you think Scream 7 is going to fall for you in your ranking?
I would say like when it first comes out, maybe like straight in the middle. And then I'm hoping as like I grow to love it and learn more about it, maybe it goes higher. But I feel like I'm such like a nostalgia person that I don't know if it will be able to be up there right away. I'm hoping somewhere right in the middle. I mean, if it tops, I don't think anything can top number 1 for me, but if it could top 4, that would be crazy. So.
That would be insane. Oh my God. All right, Ash, what would you like to see of Sydney in Scream 7?
Well, I agree with pretty much everybody. I do agree. Like Phil, one of my number 1 things is I want her to look beautiful. I want her to have a great clothes. I love Scream 4, but it's like, it makes me so angry how they made her look like a bank teller. And I'm like, why is she wearing like this really weird soft fabric blazer? infuriating. I want her to be strict but kind with her daughter. I think every mother probably has a duty, like feels like they have a duty, but also this like really overwhelming feeling of like how to teach their daughter how to navigate through the world just as a woman. Like there is those dynamics that every mother tries to teach their daughter as like they're going through the world because that's just how it is. But with Sydney, like that's even more intense. And I feel like I think she would be super honest with Tatum. I feel like she would be not brutally honest, but super honest. And like if Tatum's like, no, mom, like my new boyfriend's mom is really nice, she'd be like, well, girl, I thought that too. Okay. And then someone tried to murder me with like sandbags from a movie theater. So like, chill out. And I feel like she'd be really good at just explaining things, but I also really want to see her like being strict, but then laughing really hard with her husband. I feel like Mark could be a really good way like to cut the tension, like and I feel like Mark could also be like a way that Tatum could get away with things that Sydney doesn't want her to. Like, I think Sydney, I could see a really nice conversation of Mark being like, I understand like everything you've been through and being super empathetic, but also being like, we have to allow our daughter to live and we have to figure out like a way to like allow that. I can imagine him being really funny and I really want to see her happy and laughing with him. I think and seeing that like she really trusts him and like really loves him and feels like she can all of her trust and faith into him as a partner and a father. And I think my favorite thing about Sydney is that she's always been tough and she's never been scared to do what she needs to do, but she's always been empathetic and she's not somebody who like she runs to the situation, but she is always upset by the gore of what it is. Like she runs to go save Olivia, but she's disturbed by what she sees. She's not like she doesn't want to experience what she is experiencing, but she's for sure gonna do what she needs to do to keep people safe. And I love that about her. I think it's one of the things that I find hard about some horror movies is when our final girls lose that empathy and lose that like that thing about them that made them so honest. Honestly, I think empathy is such like a badass thing to have in your life. And I think Sydney embodies that. And I think it makes her the best final girl ever personally. And I want to see that continue. And I want to see that she's taught her daughter how to protect herself. And like, I want her to have like her and Tatum to have like this like moment where like maybe they're dueling with Ghostface and Sydney can just say one thing and Tatum knows exactly what she needs to do in that situation. Like she can be like microplastics. And then somehow Sydney in that moment, she's like, I know that I should pick this thing up and smash it over Ghostface's head. Not sure why microplastics was the word that came to my head in that moment, but it did. But I just feel like they have to have this bond. And like, obviously she's a teenager. So like every teenager goes through like rebellion and wanting to explore their own life. But I'm just really excited to see her be a mom and be really tough and strict, but loving and kind. And I think that that's okay. And being not brutally honest, but being really honest with her and telling her like what happened to her mom, how that spiraled into all of these things and how finding I think something that like I live my life by is like you truly never know somebody. Like you can still like trust them and love them and have something, but people change and people make decisions. And so just always knowing that you can trust and you can love, but yourself is like the person you need to watch out for, number one. And then again, like I want to see her having fun with Gail and I want to see her and Gail just being tough as nails and taking on the PTA moms that are mad about gluten and peanut butter, maybe justifiably so, but just like those crazy moms who are like, let's ban The Handmaid's Tale. And Sydney's like, fuck you. And Gail's like, bitch, absolutely not. So that's what I want. I want to see them just being a beacon of womanhood and teaching her daughters how to navigate this world and just be badasses.
Well, we don't know this yet. We don't know what the song is, but I'm earmarking this when we do an episode about Tatum next April. We're going to be doing the song of the week is going to be Eldest Daughter from The Life of a Showgirl. Ash, where can they find you online?
You can find me at Squirrel and Spud 9 on Instagram. You can find the puzzle of the week that Ryan and I do. We have a lot of fun making them. So please check them out. And you can find my Etsy store there if you're interested. But yeah, I love if you guys ever want to chat Taylor or Scream or whatever, just send me a message. And I love chatting and getting to know everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Ash.
All copyrighted material used or referenced in this show belong to their rightful owners and made possible by the Fair Use Act.
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back. Get another beer, you want one? Yeah, sure. I'll be right back!